Welcome to First Down Punts, a show about the on-field and off-the-field news in the world of pro football, as well as how it relates to fantasy football all season long. Thanks for joining in, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And now, here is your host, Orcus.
And welcome in, everyone, to another episode of First Down Punts. I'm your host, Orcus, and today we're going to be going over the fantasy winners and losers following the NFL draft. Before we do that, a couple things to note. George Kittle did get his extension, so he's paid. Now they just got to get Purdy, and I forget who else they got that they need to re-sign. But Kittle got his money, that's for damn sure, so that's good for him. Deontay Johnson signed with the Browns. I call this the mediocre signing of the week. Deontay Johnson was such a promising player at one time, and it just fell apart, man. I don't know what's going on. So Browns are just throwing shit at the wall, I feel like, with that signing. And the Bills yesterday, I forget what it was, signed Elijah Moore, wide receiver that was with the Browns last year. I don't know why the Browns didn't re-sign him. He did well for them. Was originally drafted by the Jets, went to the Browns, and now he's up in Buffalo with the Bills. So solid this depth piece. Could help out, no problem with the Bills, but never going to be nothing. I think we have to worry about fantasy this year but if he comes on as their number two, or at least is on the field in 3 wide receiver packages, he might get a spot start out of him throughout the year, but I just don't see him becoming anything that's consistent for him. So just some football signings I want to talk about. Still no Aaron Rodgers update to the Steelers or anywhere else. So, and no Kirk Cousins signing, so our trade. So just a couple things to mention, but we'll get into this. We're going to kick it off with our winners, and our biggest winner of the NFL draft for fantasy is Chase Brown. I said this in the grading video. Said this is going into the draft. If they don't draft a running back, Chase Brown is to the moon, man. Chase Brown to the moon. With them not drafting a guy, I think till the 7th round or something like that. If they didn't draft the guy in the first 3-4 rounds, I wasn't going to be concerned about Chase Brown's fantasy outlook. I think he could end up being a top 10 running back for sure, and possibly a top 5 running back. So he could be a league winner like he contributed to last year if he gets a full-time starting gig. I'm sure P. Ryan and Zach Moss, I don't know, man. Zach Moss might not even be on the roster by the end of the preseason, but we'll see what happens. But Chase Brown is definitely our biggest winner. Some other running backs, I think, won with the NFL draft passing. Devon Achane, love that. They didn't draft a guy till the 7th round, Ollie Gordon. I thought I still think Ollie Gordon has potential to possibly take over Jalen Wright. I still think they're going to be split, giving Achane rest with other guys getting carries and stuff. But the fact that they didn't draft a high running back, which I thought maybe they could draft a guy in the 1st or 2nd round just because of the talent available and what McDaniels likes to do down there in Miami. But them not getting anybody, Devon Achane staying where he was, staple back, baby. Him and Chase Brown are both staple backs. DeAndre Swift, big winner. They didn't draft anybody of note. I thought they should have drafted a guy in the 2nd round, or maybe in the 1st if they really wanted a guy. But I know there was rumors they were trying to trade up to 5 to get Genty. But once Jacksonville moved up to 2 and Cleveland couldn't get the price they wanted, they just went ahead and took Mason Graham, and the Bears ended up with Colston Loveland at 10 there. So, but DeAndre Swift right now is a winner. I don't know how long that'll last. There's rumors that they could sign Nick Chubb or possibly trade for a guy. I mean, James Cook, I think he's going to stay in Buffalo now at this point, but he's still a possibility. There's definitely a couple guys that could be moved now that the draft is over and teams drafted another guy or whatever. So we'll see what happens. Jerome Ford, there's a player that could end up in Chicago. So, but right now, DeAndre Swift's on the winner's board because they didn't draft nobody to even split carries or replace him. Roshan Johnson, you can include him in that too. He's still there, and they drafted him a couple years ago. It wasn't Benedict Johnson, but he's still a good back out of Texas that I think could help them along the way if he can stay healthy. But Tony Pollard, big winner down there in Tennessee. They still got him and Tajay Spears, but they didn't draft anybody of note, and that is great news for Tony Pollard. I drafted him last year because I liked it. After a year after the injury, he did really well last year for Tennessee. Had to carry the load at some points when Spears was out. I think he got banged up last year a little bit himself, but he's a winner, man. They didn't draft anybody to replace him. They've improved that offense with Cam Ward and receivers and stuff that they got, it should be interesting to see what they do in Tennessee this year now that they got a real quarterback. And the last winner we got on our board for running backs is Javonte Williams. Down there, he signed with the Dallas Cowboys this year. Him and Miles Sanders. They did draft Jonathan Blue out of I gotta look at that. They did draft the running back Blue out of Texas, but he's a receiving back. I said he could probably have 60, 65 catches this year if everything goes well in Dallas. But Javonte Williams can still be that in between the tackle runner and help that team out. And his value went up being that they didn't draft an early running back. That's for damn sure. Quarterbacks that won thanks to the NFL draft, Justin Herbert. Got him Trey Harris. Got him an offensive lineman. And got him Omarion Hampton. That's a winning combination for a quarterback. Got him a new weapon at 2 different positions. Oh, and they got a Rhamondre Stevenson later. So a tight end who is a good receiver. Needs to improve his blocking, but could definitely end up on the field helping for fantasy at some point. But definitely going to help Justin Herbert this year. Number 2, Caleb Williams. They got him more pass catchers. They built up his offensive line. I said this before. He ain't got no more excuses, man. None at all. Look, you got an O-line in front of you now. From what we all believe with the moves you made, you got 2 more pass catches to go with the 3 you already had, or 4 counting DeAndre Swift. No more excuses, Caleb Williams. You were definitely a winner from the NFL draft and your offseason, basically. Number 3, Baker Mayfield. Getting the Egbuka, excellent pickup. I know he's probably not going to be your starter day one or anything unless Godwin's not ready. But just another pass catcher for him is always good. And Baker Mayfield, he was 8 yards shy of being a staple back last year. You get him another weapon, he might be able to break that this year. We'll see what happens, but definitely a winner. Geno Smith, another winner. Went and got him some more receiving options. They got the Jack Beck out of TCU, as well as Dante Thornton, one of my favorite guys at receiver. Got him Ashton Genty in the first round, obviously, to help their running game because they were worst in the league last year. And Geno is set up with some weapons around him now to have a successful season in Las Vegas. Drake May, next on the board, went and got him Kyle Williams. They got him Diggs. They got him Treveyon Henderson. They got him some weapons. Drake May, all that complaining last year about him not having any real receivers. Well, he's got some this year. We'll see what he can do with it. I think he can continue to climb forward, but I would like full disclosure, I wasn't a big Drake May guy. He impressed me last year with what he did once he got starting. So, hey, I'm all for it, man. He's a winner with the weapons that they picked up for him, that's for sure. Another guy, big winner, Trevor Lawrence. We saw what they did at the top of the draft, going to get Travis Hunter. Just give him another awesome receiver to go with BTJ. And they got rid of Evan Ingram. Ended up bringing in, I forget the tight end they brought in, the rookie. But just another, they still got Brenton Strange. I think he's kind of a winner too for the tight ends, if you want me to be honest, just because they didn't draft anybody really to replace him like high. They didn't draft one of the high picks at tight end. So he's a little bit of a winner with Trevor Lawrence there. Bryce Young, big winner. They got him a true number 1, big giant dude that can run down the field in McMillan. And his, like I said, his catch radius is impeccable, man. Impeccable. So those Bryce Young live balls and off-target balls, they might get caught now with this guy on the field. Bryce Young, congratulations. They also went and got a Mitchell Evans, who I'm a big fan of later in the draft. Could be their starting tight end this year. Definitely probably going to be their starting tight end next year. So for those dynasty leagues out there, he's the guy you want to get in the 4th round or pick up as an undrafted free agent right after it and hold on to him for a year, see what happens. Big winner, Justin Fields. They got Garrett Wilson still. They went and got the rookie Mason Taylor. Them running backs are still there, and they did not draft a quarterback. That's the biggest part of why Justin Fields is a winner. They didn't draft a guy to replace him. The one kid that they did draft in like the 6th round or whatever ended up retiring, the one out of Florida State that destroyed his leg last year. Sucks for him, man. I mean, it's cool he got drafted. Sucks for the Jets because they used a draft pick on him, and then he didn't end up doing anything for him. He just retired half a week later. But Fields, big winner. He's number 9 on my quarterback board for the redraft leagues next year. So just a heads up on that. Right now, he is at number 9. I'll see what happens throughout the offseason and everything. Maybe they can get another pass catcher, sign like a Keenan Allen for him. But definitely a guy that I'll be looking to draft this year. The wide receiver winners, I only got 3 of these guys because there wasn't really a lot of huge changes for people. But Brandon Ayuk, didn't get traded, and they didn't draft any more pass catchers to really threaten him besides the ones they already got with Jennings and Pearsall. And Ayuk should be the number one as long barring health. So that's good news for him. Excellent news for him. CeeDee Lamb, for fantasy wise, he's going to get 180 targets next year because they didn't get anybody to help out. They still got the same roster basically, and other than Jaden Blue. Now Jaden Blue is going to catch some of those underneath routes, but I think that could steal more from the tight ends than it would from CeeDee Lamb going downfield and doing what he does. He's still the number one there. There's another team who could sign a guy like Keenan Allen just to help out with the receivers, or maybe trade for a guy. You never know. You see who's available. But the third winner on the receivers board is Garrett Wilson. Didn't draft a guy high enough to make me worry about his number of targets he gets this year. And with Justin Fields, he's got a true number one. Garrett Wilson is true number one. I know it got messed up last year with Adams, but Wilson's a damn good player, and Justin Fields got a number one. Got a rookie tight end. Got those running backs to help out, to keep the offense balanced. I think we could see a lot of points coming out of Wilson and Fields this year. A couple other winners I just put down is the Steelers' offense. I know a lot of people don't feel this way. I do feel like the Steelers' offense got better. They got Caleb Johnson, and they drafted Will Howard, who, barring Aaron Rodgers news or Kirk Cousins trade, Will Howard is still better than what they had. And that's an improvement for the offense along with Caleb Johnson. And that helps them out a lot. The other thing I just wrote down was the Saints pass catchers. I'm not going to specify Olave or Tre'Quan Smith or whoever else they want to put out there. Point is, they got someone in case Derek Carr's not there and Tyler Shuck. And they didn't draft any real threats to take any of their spots, which is great news for all of the Saints pass catchers. Granted, I probably would have drafted somebody maybe in the second, third round just to help out. But at the end of the day, man, they got Olave, they got Tre'Quan running down the field, they got Juwan Johnson. Taysom Hill's not going to be playing probably first 6-8 weeks of the season if he plays at all this year with the injuries he had last year. But Saints pass catchers are winners after the NFL draft because they didn't have any real threats to their jobs. On to the biggest losers. The biggest loser is Jerome Ford. Not only did they draft Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State in the second round at pick 33, they turned around and got Dylan Sampson in the fourth round, who I also love. And to me, like I said with DeAndre Swift, maybe Cleveland could trade Jerome Ford over to Chicago or something to help them out. Or they signed former Browns running back Nick Chubb as the bruiser and let Swift be the receiving back. But at the end of the day, Jerome Ford basically got told they don't need him anymore. So he is our biggest loser. The next guy I thought about putting up here was Rhamondre Stevenson, just because I love Treveyon Henderson so much. But I do think Rhamondre Stevenson and him are going to play more like the Gibbs and Monty role, the Kamara and Deuce McAllister role type thing. Or not Deuce McAllister. Or not Kamara, but Reggie Bush and Deuce McAllister when they were doing it. Where there's, the super athletic freak, does pass catching. And the biggest problem for Rhamondre is that he fumbles, and Treveyon Henderson is one hell of a pass blocker. So that's why he's on the loser list. I still think he could end up being overtaken by the middle of the season. But to start the season, he's going to be a guy that's going to still be getting carries and stuff, probably still be the goal line back. And Henderson's going to slowly, I think, take over the course of the season. So that's why he's on the losers list. Tyrone Tracy, the Giants running back, just them drafting a running back within the first 4 rounds with this running back depth in this draft, getting Cam Scatterboo there in the 4th, it's going to take away from Tracy's ceiling. I still think he's going to be on the field. I think he's still going to be a fantasy relevant player, maybe not a number 2 back, but maybe a 3 or 4 back where he's a starter, a spot starter sometimes, bye week filler. Whereas I think he could have been like a number 2 back this year if they don't draft anybody. But we'll see what happens. And our last loser running back, I think, is the obvious one, Najee Harris at the Chargers. They went and drafted Omari Hampton with the 23rd overall pick out of North Carolina, who most people had as their number 2 back on the board. And they also I said this in the top 40 video, they did like a restricted thing where they made J.K. Dobbins a restricted free agent all of a sudden. I still don't understand. I forgot to look into that. But so not only did they draft Omari and Hampton, they're bringing back Dobbins is what it sounds like maybe. And if that's the case, it just kills any hope we had for Najee having an awesome season there in the chart with the Chargers in Los Angeles. Quarterbacks I felt like lost in this draft. Jordan Love. I know everybody's excited about Matthew Golden. I am worried that they got another one of the same guys that they already got, which is a number 2 receiver. And if it's just another, and they drafted Treveyon Williams. Now I know that helps with, hey, we got more pass catchers. It doesn't help with they still didn't get him a true number 1. So maybe they go get Ayuk. Maybe they trade for Pickens or Dobbs for Pickens and some draft picks or something. We'll see what happens. But I still think Jordan Love, they need to get him a true number 1 wide receiver for that offense to click properly. And Kirk Cousins is the other loser at quarterback, mainly because he didn't get traded, man. We all thought that he wasn't going to get traded in the draft, but I was hoping right after the draft we'd hear some news like, all right, this team didn't draft a guy or whatever, or maybe the Steelers, like I said, Steelers could go get Cousins for a year or two and let Will Howard develop behind him, man, and just see what they got. But at the end of the day, it sucks to see Kirk Cousins on the bench somewhere. And I love Michael Penix Jr. I think he should be starting in Atlanta. Don't get me wrong. I just think having Kirk Cousins on the bench instead of a starting quarterback in a league that needs starting quarterbacks makes him a loser right now that he hasn't been traded, and makes whatever team is going to trade for him a loser until they trade for him. But on the wide receivers who lost in the draft, after the draft for fantasy, Jalen McMillan, a guy I liked a lot coming out of Washington and showed some of his potential towards the end of the last 6 weeks of the year last year for fantasy after Godwin was out and he really got rolling. He started scoring touchdowns left and right. Them getting Igbuka, I don't think is going to take Jalen McMillan off the field all the time or anything like that. I think it gives me concern about Chris Godwin's potential, but it just muddies the water with more guys you got to get on the field. More guys, the same way I talk about with the Packers, with the Bears. There's so many guys and there's only so many spots that can play. So McMillan's going to lose snaps to Igbuka, to Godwin, to Evans, to 2 tight end set offenses. He's going to be pulled off the field more just because they got another guy. Quentin Johnston, another like I said, the Chargers drafting Trey Harris. It makes me believe they're about done with Quentin Johnston after the mental errors we saw last year. He started to have some consistency, and then he completely blew it again just by big drop. I think it was on a sideline play, man. It was like you see it happen. He drops the ball going to the sideline, and it just changes the trajectory of the game, of the season, man. It's like, God damn it, you got to get past that. You got to overcome that. That's that mental toughness stuff we talk about in focus. These are things that you can't judge this by watching tape, man. I mean, you can see guys that drop the ball, but the mental toughness of people is hard to see sometimes watching tape. You don't know it till you get around them. You don't know it till you're talking to them and hearing what their life's about or whatever else. And Quentin Johnston, he's got focus concerns, obviously, because he drops the ball way too often to this point. But the mental toughness to not overcome that is what is really bothering me with him, because he is everything you want, size-wise, speed-wise, athleticism-wise, in a wide receiver. And he just can't put it together, man. And I feel like them drafting Trey Harris is going to bump. They re-signed Mike Williams. I feel like Quentin Johnston is just a loser after the draft and free agency and stuff so far. So I know not a lot of people are like, oh, we got to have Quentin Johnston. But I thought that maybe if they don't bring a bunch of guys in, they were going to continue to stick it out with him and he could still be fantasy relevant. At this point, I'm concerned if he's even going to be relevant at all for the rest of his career. So on the tight ends that are on the loser board, number 1, Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet is a 3-down tight end. I've already discussed this in the draft grades and everything else video about Cole Kmet's a 3-down tight end. Everybody was talking about the Bears were going to draft a tight end, and I thought it was going to be Warren if they did. They ended up getting Colston Loveland, but they also got Luther Burden in the second. So Colston Loveland's going to be stealing snaps at tight end. Same thing I was just talking about with McMillan and them. Oh, you know what? Did forget to mention DJ Moore and Odunze in the wide receivers, because this same problem with Cole Kmet. They could all be in the same boat. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet, all their value dropped some because they drafted Colston Loveland and Luther Burden, which says Benedict Johnson is trying to get his own guys, and he's going to be taking these guys off the field. And it's great for Caleb Williams that he has all these weapons. It's terrible for fantasy because there's 5 players now as pass catchers for Caleb Williams, and you got to figure out which guy is going to be the most consistent. And that's not going to be easy to do with a lot of these teams, man. Like I said, the same with the Bucks, same with the Chargers. You're going to have to figure out how to manage and maneuver through who's the most important guys. I still think DJ Moore and Odunze at the top of the depth chart for receivers, and Burton's going to work his way in. So it kills his fantasy potential as a rookie. It kills DJ Moore and Odunze that they're going to be splitting time at times with these guys. And they're all just losers at the end of the day when it comes to fantasy production if everybody's going to be eating from the same pie, man. You're getting less pie. That's all it is. Another loser at tight end, David Njoku, which I don't think he's a loser so much this year. I think it's going forward because I want to say he's in the last year of his deal. Maybe he's got 2 years left. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. They drafted Harold Fannin Jr. He's going to be on the field, guys. He's a receiving weapon. And I couldn't remember Cedric Tillman the other day when I was talking. It was the other wide receiver they got. So they got Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, Harold Fannin Jr., and David Njoku. And I don't think David Njoku was a huge loser. I just feel like this is going to take some away from what his potential could be. Now, they also didn't draft a high quarterback and didn't trade for Cousins, didn't sign Rodgers. So these guys are all kind of on a loser board, being that the Browns offense didn't really do what they needed to do quarterback-wise. I still think Shador's got potential. I still think he could end up being a starter week one. But them getting Judkins and Sampson lets you know they're going to run the ball more, which is going to take away from the passing options. Now, it could help with the passing situation if you got a quarterback that can handle that, play action, all that other stuff. But right now, I got Njoku on the losers list for fantasy because Cleveland's still being Cleveland. And the last guy on the tight end list is Tyler Higbee. I don't know how some of you guys feel about Terrence Ferguson, but I love the guy. Absolutely love him. He was my third tight end on my ranks for the NFL draft, not for fantasy, just alone. He's number 3 in fantasy on my ranks too because of where he landed here with the Rams. Higbee's coming off an injury. The Davis kid isn't great. Terrence Ferguson is everything the Rams want as a pass catcher. And I believe he's going to end up taking over that starting spot sooner rather than later. And that's going to kill any Higbee value you could possibly be dreaming of beforehand. He was never going to be a dominant tight end as it was. Now he's going to be even less valuable. So you never know. You'll see what happens. But the other couple things I wrote down here for the losers was the Carolina pass catchers, because all of them just took a hit when they drafted Ted McMillan at the 8th overall pick. Like I said, Bryce Young's a winner. All these pass catchers are losers because Ted McMillan just took all the targets probably for the majority of the offense. And the Packers wide receivers, same as I was talking about with Chicago, Tampa Bay, Chargers, Browns, all these are not the Browns, but the Chargers, the Packers, the Bears, all these guys, and they're all in the same boat. There's just so many options that's going to be taking away from any one or two dominant players of target acquisition, of opportunities. You're just taking away with the more weapons you have to get onto the field. It's great for NFL offense. You love it. You got guys that are always fresh rotating in. It sucks for fantasy football because you got guys that are always rotating in. And you're taking your guys out the field. DJ Moore, some people look at him as a number 1 receiver, even if you got him as your 12th receiver on your rankings or 10th receiver. He's not going to be a number 1 on my board. He never has. I've never been the biggest DJ Moore fan. I give him credit for what he can do, but I don't think he's a dominant player, which means you're not a number 1. I like number 1. I consider number 1 wide receivers players that are dominant. DJ Moore's got a lot of qualities you like, but I always felt like he got a little bit too much credit. Well, now he's in another mix, just like the Packers wide receivers, where they are just jumbled up. Everybody's in line to get targets, and you figuring out which ones are going to be the most successful over the course of the season or over the course of their career for dynasty and stuff is going to be difficult, I feel like, for the beginning of the season. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, these are the winners and losers. Biggest winner, Chase Brown. They didn't draft the guy high enough to make me worry about picking him high. I think he's probably a second-round pick in fantasy drafts. And I'm so excited about his fantasy potential this year. And the biggest loser, like I said, Jerome Ford. He basically got wiped off the map with Judkins and Sampson going there as rookie running backs. So that's how I feel about these guys. We're going to end up doing a mock draft sometime this week or beginning of next week sometime, so we'll put that out. And I'm going to start going through all types of stuff, football and fantasy, guys, like I said in the other video. We had our first video hit 100 views. Appreciate that, guys. We got another one that's getting close. So share the videos with your friends, people that love football. Let them see what I'm talking about. Maybe they like it. Maybe they don't. But I appreciate any support. But other than that, we're going to get out of here. I hope you guys have a good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time you're watching. Till next time, I'm out.